truth is, having debt can feel like you're a slave, and it can feel so hopeless and disheartening, and it can feel like you're just in this constant cycle of paying it off a little bit, but then not leaving enough for your bills, and then having to take a little more debt, and it feels like it just goes on and on and on. And then what happens next is guilt. At least this is, I guess I should disclose that this is my personal experience and how I feel, but I'm guessing there's other people out there that feel the same way. But I know for me, there's so much guilt with being, in your mid to late 20s and still having debt and not having like all this savings and so many like assets purchased and so on and so on. At least I felt guilty that I wasn't doing a good job at preparing for my future and preparing for my kids' future and so on. So I know my husband and I had to work very hard at communicating our expectations and how we wanted to tackle debt, because not doing that can really harm your relationship. As most of us know, that money is one of the biggest reasons why relationships don't work out. But anyway, that was a little off topic. But I feel like a lot of people don't talk about debt, and they don't talk about their struggles. And what can happen is they feel really isolated because they go out to social functions but feel guilty for spending money, knowing that they should be paying on debt, or they just don't go to social functions, they don't go out with people because they don't want to spend money, and then they end up feeling lonely, lose friends, so on and so on. So anyway, I guess my point is that having debt can be really isolating. It can make you feel really guilty, and I think the biggest thing personally is it just can feel hopeless. And there's nothing worse than being hopeless. There's nothing worse than feeling like I just down and just no energy and no motivation, because you just feel like, what's the point? That is the worst. Like when you lose hope, it feels like it's hard to come back from that. And I've felt hopeless so many times over this journey of paying off debt. But anyway, I'm saying all this just to make people out there feel like you're not alone in this. I don't know exact percentages, but a large percent of people in North America have a fair amount of debt. And so I'm also making this video not just to make you not feel alone, but also to motivate you to do something about it. And so I'll go through a couple things that my husband and I are doing in order to make sure our debt gets paid off and in a quick manner so that we can be free. So I have 6 tips here. Now I won't go into a ton of detail. I think I'm going to make videos later on going into more detail into each of these things. But for this video, I thought I would just keep it brief and go through them fairly quickly. I'll discuss them a bit, but not too much. But videos will be coming on more details. So number 1, I think we've all heard it, is to budget. Now, I feel like almost everyone knows that you should budget, but so few people actually do it. And I believe that whether you're in a financially stable place or not, you should budget, because I think it's so important to be good stewards of our money. I think that God blesses people that use their money wisely. I feel like if you don't budget, your money can just kind of disappear and you don't even know where it went, and I think it's good to be smart with your money. So budgeting, it's so important. Every month you should budget what you're going to spend on all various things, what you're going to put aside for savings. If you have debt, you're going to be paying off debt rather than saving. What accounts you should have set up for emergency type situations, emergency and or unexpected type situations, and how much money you should put aside for annual or semi-annual or that type of irregular payments, such as registration, insurance, and so on. So I feel like it's really important to budget, because then you know exactly where each of your dollars go, and then you don't have to guess at the end of the month like, oh, I thought I was going to be able to save $1,000, now I only have $200 left, like where did all the rest of the money go? You don't have to guess. And personally, my husband and I have not been very good at this, but this month we're getting back at it, and we will try to do this until our debt is paid off, and that is cash budgeting. Why cash budgeting can be so effective is that you can physically see the cash that you have for each of your different areas. For example, going out cash budget, clothing, groceries, etc. And you can put them in separate envelopes or however you wish to organize it, and then you physically see the money leaving your hands, and so it can be very good. And also then your debit, you set your debit aside, you don't need it, you don't use it, you're not just like, oh, I'll just use my debit, and you use it and slowly, or sometimes rather quickly, money just kind of disappears. So that is what we were doing. Number two, I would say would be to have good accountability. So whether it be a parent, a sibling, a friend, someone in your life that can check in on you and see how you're doing at what point in the month, like mid-month, they can say, hey, like, are you keeping on budget? How's it going? So knowing that someone will be checking in on you will motivate you to keep on that budget. Now, if you're married and you have a spouse, then you could be each other's accountability, but to be honest, sometimes you still need someone outside to check in on you. I think that can be really, really helpful. Number three would be to have good, supportive friends that know what situation you're in. They know that you're trying to pay off debt or you're trying to accomplish some sort of financial goal, and that will be able to plan stuff with you that don't cost a ton of money and just be there to encourage you. And I think that is so important. Now, I'm not saying that all your friends have to know your financial details or anything like that, but having some friends that you can just chat with and they can just encourage you, I think that's just so important. I truly believe that having friends that can encourage you can make a big difference in keeping your spirits up, if you will. 4, I would highly recommend that you be diligent at finding good deals on things. For example, if you have $100 set aside for your clothing budget, then look for really good deals and make that $100 go as far as possible. Because to be honest, if people spent a little more time looking, I think we could all find amazing deals. Like, there's actual websites where you can find coupon codes. There's websites that you can install on your computer that if you're online shopping, it will look for coupons codes for that specific company that you're buying from. There's cashback programs, and then of course grocery shopping, there's always a cheaper option. There's always going to be, not always, but most of the time there's going to be like a name brand item versus a no name. And sometimes the no name isn't good and you'll opt for the brand name, but a lot of times the no name stuff is just fine. Or there's a 2 for whatever price. Like, there's so many ways that you can save money, and I think that sometimes people don't do that because it feels like a small amount at the time. But if you would go throughout the year and add that all up, I bet you it would really, really add up. And then on top of that, I would also say give up the small things that don't add that much value to your life. Maybe that's not the right way of saying it, but things that aren't needs, I guess. Things that are pleasures that tend to cost a lot of money when you add them all up, like coffees. People think that, well, it's only $2, let's say, from Timmy's or McDonald's. Well, if you add that all up every single day, that adds up to a lot of money. Like, that's a couple car payments even, or depending on how high your car payments are, but I think you get the drift. Giving up small things now so that later on in life you can have those things guilt-free. Number 5 is to pay off your smallest debt first. Now, a lot of people think that you should pay off your highest interest debt first, And I learned from Dave Ramsey that you should pay off your smallest debt first. Now let me explain why. Once you start paying off debt, it can feel really, really good, and it can be really, really motivating. This year, I didn't have that much remaining on my car payments, and when I had that paid off, it was the most amazing feeling. Like, I felt like, even though it was only $300 a month, it just felt like so good that we had one less debt. And we could have paid off, let's say, a student loan first, that had possibly a little higher of an interest rate, but it was a higher overall balance, so it would have taken me longer. So this way, I paid that off, and it felt so good, and I was so motivated to move on and tackle my next debt. And I think it can really, really take you out of that hopelessness that I had mentioned earlier. And so I would highly recommend to do that. And number 6, it kind of goes along with number 5, and that is to snowball your debt. So pretty much what that means is that when you pay off one debt, instead of using that money for something else or taking that money into account, you just put that straight onto the next smallest debt. So I did that, and it cut my smallest student loan down by, I don't know, a couple of years. It's going to be paid off like in no time now, because I went straight from having car payments, and because that money, I never wasn't used to having that money anyway, so I just put that straight onto my smallest student loan, and it upped my payments by like 3 times. I think my payment was 3 times higher that I was making every month. And now that student loan is going to be paid off so quick, then I'll put that entire amount onto my next smallest debt, and then I'll be debt free, or I'll be debt free. My student loans, I always take that. I know my husband and I were married, but I always feel personally responsible for my student loans. I don't regret it. I don't regret getting student loans, but they can be tough to pay off. And if your parents have set aside savings for you for your university, be very, very grateful and use that money very, very wisely. It will go a long ways. So those are my 6 tips on how to pay off debt faster. Like I said before, I will be going into more depth in another video on budgeting, and specifically how we use cash envelopes to budget. And yeah, before I go, I just want to say, if you are in debt and you are feeling hopeless, then I hope that this video motivated you to make a plan and stick to it and pay it off. And I also would recommend that with every small loan you pay off, find a small way to reward yourself, and just really, really celebrate every small victory and every small debt that you pay off. It can be just the best feeling, and slowly but surely you will get there, and one day you'll be debt free. And I personally cannot wait for that day. I find it hard to even imagine what that would be like, but I will get there, and I'm so excited about it. Anyway, subscribe to my channel, like this video, and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching. Bye.